Today we're going to be having a look at the Mattel DC Comics. This is the Multiverse Collect and Connect Clayface wave. Today we're having a look at the TV series Supergirl, Martian, Manhunter. Just before we wrap up the Collect and Connect figure of Clayface, of course we're going to delve into the Martian Manhunter, but before we do that, we're going to have to figure out that first things first, old lettuce head here stands at roughly about 6 3/4 of an inch tall. Accessory-wise, he comes with a little bit more than some of the other figures that were in this particular wave. Obviously, the one that draws my attention first and foremost is the Collect and Connect piece that completes our Clayface. And this would be the other arm. I still really wish that there was another figure still in this wave to review, and that figure could have had other component pieces that could have attached to the hand section of Clayface here. You know, taking the hand out, you can see it just unpegs, could have replaced it with an axe or some other stabbing weapon, something that they could have added a little bit more just to kind of beef up Clayface. Anyways, let's reach off to the side here, bring in the Clayface that we've already almost completed. And in a few seconds, in a few clicks, we've got ourselves a finished Clayface. Rather impressive, I have to admit. Rather very consistently neutral, I think, with his mold. It's just kind of just a blob. But a nice looking figure. Looking forward to getting this guy a full review, which so happens to be the next video after this one. So stay tuned for that. Just, by the way, a quick size comparison between the Collect and Connect Clayface and the Martian Manhunter that we're going to have a look at. So move that guy out of the way. Move Manhunter back in. For his accessories, we'll look at this first. He comes with the parasitic species that attaches itself around Kara. In the episode, Season 1, Episode 13, The Girl Who Has Everything, which is basically just a play off of The Man Who Has Everything, which has Superman in similar sort of tragic turmoils, which this alien species latches itself on. In this case, in the series, latches on to Supergirl and puts her in like a dream sequence where she's back on her home planet and all that kind of stuff. The parasitic species is of softer plastic. I'm going to take Martian Manhunter, even though it's not really intended for him. It doesn't really so much latch around him. I suppose you could drape it over top of the shoulders, and the arms do a good job of kind of keeping it in place. I'm, by the way, calling these arms, but can kind of keep it in place. In the episode, Kara's just kind of just like this, and it's laying on top of her. I suppose if you also had a Superman, you could also do that too. You know what? Just for the sake of it, just to show you, you can drape it over top of Superman. We'll kind of go with the same route here, draping the tentacle arms over top. Yeah, I suppose it does stay in place. Maybe he can go into a dreamlike sequence where he believes he's a better figure than what he actually is. Oh, another shot on Superman. He'll forget about it, I'm sure. Okay, so let's have a look at Martian Manhunter from the TV series. Comes with some interchangeable hands. He currently has a pair of close-fisted hands, but he also comes with a pair of grabbing hands as well. You can kind of have him grabbing the parasite. To unpeg the hands are super easy, and then to go ahead and peg the new hands in are easy as well. A lot of really easy things happening here. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. The hands, you probably will notice, are slightly sitting on an angle. There's no hinge on them, so you can't hinge the hands back. You can slightly remove them further out from the socket if you want to go with a more slightly straight hand. If not, when you plug it into place, the hand always will kind of curve its way inward. I always find close fists to be a bit of a yawn, so I'm going to replace them both out with these slightly, again, angled in hands. Even if I'm just going to be displaying him in a museum style, which basically just has the figure standing straight upright like this, relaxed hands are probably the route that I'm going to go. Tee-hee, somebody had said at the beginning of this review, lettuce head. Yes, he does kind of bear some striking resemblance to a species of lettuce people or cabbage people. I feel like the head sculpt, it seems slightly off. I think it's pretty good, but I feel it's slightly off than how it appeared in the show. Equally so is also the color, which may, if anything, be throwing me more so off. Maybe the head sculpt isn't the problem. It's probably more so the color. He has slightly more of a darker kind of grayish green, it seems, in the show, and yet here it comes across almost more like a, I don't know, like a more yellowy green. One of the problems that you've now just experienced firsthand with me is one of the problems I have with this particular figure. His cape seems to fall off more times than I want it to. It's of a very irregular shape. I mean, there's very little that's catching the cape to the torso. There's this little slot here, and there's this little tiny ledge with these little notches. There's a notch there. See how it kind of shapes, there's a little curve and a little curve section here. And that kind of keeps a lot of the cape going inside, but a lot of times when you are moving the torso, or any bit of movement actually for that matter, the cape does want to pop off from time to time. I think that the body sculpt is actually quite nice here. Very traditional sort of Martian Manhunter design with the red cross straps that would be on the front. In the original character designs, of course, you would only be seeing his bare skin, and then the cross straps would be on the front of it, as well as some rather comical sort of like blue boots and stuff like that. But a nice modern take for the Martian Manhunter. I think, more acceptable as something that could easily have translated into the movie as well. I think the design for Martian Manhunter is really that good. It could have also made its way into the DC movie series as well, keeping essentially the same sort of design elements to it. Primarily, the figure is mostly black, other than the few little peakings of the color. So primarily mostly black from head to toe, but you've got the little areas of gold here on his belt. Again, the red straps. It also has the little button sort of socket areas, which I also think carried over from the original design of the character and the superpowers version of the character, which was one of the few superpowers figures I had growing up. I think it was him, Firestorm, and Red Tornado were like the most irregular characters that I got from the superpowers growing up. A little bit of blue also carries in its way into there as well. Some nice texturing effect added to the torso area here. We've got almost like a fencing kind of mesh that's added to the additional black plastic. So it just gives a little extra texturing to an otherwise pretty much black costume character from head to toe. This particular figure also goes back to the more traditional, tried and true split cut on the particular thighs. This also may lend itself better why the character and figure flows a little bit better versus, I don't know, Superman here, where you have the real sharp cut, where this looks consistent, and then once again the legs just seem like a different figure altogether has been plugged into the lower torso area here. I'm gonna stop picking on Superman. I know it's really mean. Speaking of articulation on this guy, one little bit of problems I have with this particular figure, and I've been trying to find ways around it, is his head moves up and down fairly easy. If we unpeg the head, or maybe I'll just leave it. There's actually a hinge. There's a hinge right there, which I would assume then is attached by a ball joint. The head can move up and down fairly easy, but it's when you rotate the head side to side where you start noticing more of a problem. It really struggles being able to move side to side, and a lot of times you may find yourself slightly lifting the head up to get a normal swing on this figure's head sculpt. If you just go with the defaulted, he has a rather irregular way of rotating his head. Again, you can kind of slightly force it, but if not, it does rotate on a rather awkward angle. The arms hinge outwards. The arms also rotate all the way around. There's a swivel cut on the bicep. What only appears to be a single hinge on the elbow, but at the very least, you've got the rotation happening there in the bicep. I actually thought that the forearm here could rotate, but that's not the case. Hands rotate all the way around, as we've already discussed, but it doesn't have the hinge. Oh, shucks. Upper torso crunch, waist swivel, and going back to the legs, which we've already discussed. Lower swivel cut. Ah, there goes the cape. I knew the cape was going to fall. Lower swivel on the lower cut of the thigh. Only a single hinge on the knee. Nothing in the boot. And you've also got a hinge on the foot. Is there an ankle rocker? Absolutely not. To be fair, I don't really think a lot of these DC Universe figures, or for that matter DC Multiverse figures, more times than not, it seems like they don't have ankle rockers than what they do. Let's go ahead and get this persistently annoying cape back into place. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have yourself the final figure of this endeavor. This is the Martian Manhunter from Supergirl. I was going for an awkward pause. I probably didn't need to put that in there. But we're having a look at the Supergirl TV series, Martian Manhunter. And to see a rather meh figures from this particular wave, some were a little bit better than others, I think Martian Manhunter here is a breath of fresh air. Sure, he doesn't have some of the colors that, say, for example, Rebirth Superman possesses, but I think he makes up for it in a really nice, well-executed, well-flowing body mold, something that Superman could not deliver. The parasite species is a nice nod to the series in which this character is pulled from, and even though I think the head sculpt could be slightly more tweaked to fit what he should look like in the show, I think it's pretty close. If anything, the coloring on his face could be maybe what the detractor is, as I feel like his face is a little bit more of a grayish green and not this bright green. Lettuce head, though, still has some nice design elements to it, keeping a very neutral, more black, consistent color scheme for his costume. And let's not forget also his cape that wants to pop off from time to time. I may say, though, of the Multiverse line, there's generally one figure, maybe sometimes two figures, per wave that are pulled from TV series and not from comics. Of those TV series related characters, Martian Manhunter here may be one of the better of the lot. So he's a nice little pickup if you are collecting Clayface, and more importantly, if you're collecting TV series themed characters. Nicely done. Coloring's a little off, but nicely done. Today we were having a look at the final figure from the Mattel DC Comics Multiverse line, and this was Supergirl's Martian Manhunter. That is it. This shopkeeper can now close up shop and go home. Okay, well, we have one more review, and that is the very impressive Clayface. Looking forward to doing a review of him, and yes, his review will be next in line, so stay tuned. It may not actually happen today, or I may actually put all these videos up in one day. I'm sometimes notorious for doing that. If you guys haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so, as many more videos, including the Clayface that's coming up, will be coming soon, so stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.